Welcome to Momentum Unfiltered. In the Momentum Network, we believe healthy churches create healthy communities. Every week, we'll have honest conversations about leadership, discipleship, mission, innovation, and what it means to faithfully engage God's mission in a changing world. So whether you're a pastor, a church leader, or someone passionate about the future of the local church, we're glad you're here. So let's jump into today's conversation. Welcome to Momentum Unfiltered. This is a podcast where we have honest conversations about the state of the local church, discipleship, leadership development, and spiritual formation. These are conversations that are honest and to the point with people who love the local church and want to see it be as successful as it possibly can for the Great Commission. Today, my co-host and I, Leon Miles, say hi, Leon.
Hi, how are you guys?
Are here with one of our favorite people, Pastor Kip Tyler. Pastor Kip is pastor of a great church in Omaha, Nebraska, but he also serves as the chairman of the board of directors for the Institute of Lutheran Theology, ILT, a great seminary that we know and love for its academic depth and commitment to theological teaching, but then also a commitment to equipping pastors, ministry leaders to be more effective in carrying the Great Commission and the gospel out into the communities that desperately need to hear that message. And so today we're here to talk with Kip about why Momentum exists, why a network, why ILT is part of it, and what it is about Momentum and a network for church revitalization that was really important, that Kip was really excited and interested about being a part of starting this network. So Kip, thanks for being here today. We appreciate you taking your time out to join us.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be a part of this.
Great. We've got just a few questions to get started. And, you know, from my background working with churches, I always am looking at what are the challenges that are facing the church today. So, Kip, in your role as a pastor and then also as the chairman at ILT, what are some of the challenges that you think are really the most pressing things that are facing our local churches today?
I think there's kind of a multifaceted problem that's going on today. And I'm speaking primarily of the church in North America, Canada included, because there are certainly other places in the world where the church is vibrant and growing. And I think if we're smart, we pay attention to what's going on in those places. But here in the United States, I've been doing this pastor gig for quite a while, so I've seen a lot of things over time, and what we're finding ourselves in, I think, has been very incremental in coming on, and I think in some ways we're our own worst enemies. I think we're very complacent. As a church back in probably the 50s and 60s. I think we just kind of kept doing the same old thing through the 70s and 80s. And in the 90s and 2000s, we started going, where are people going? Why don't we have pastors like we used to have? And now we're at a stage of, oh my gosh, the wheels are coming off the ship and the whole thing's crashing and burning. So I'm not one that's going to panic because I know throughout the history of the church, the Lord is always doing his thing. And sometimes when it looks like things are going under, God is actually doing some of his most powerful stuff. And we see that happen over and over and over again. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist, nor am I going to panic in the midst of this. But I think the issues at hand are congregations have grown complacent in doing everything but what Jesus told us to do, which if you look at Jesus's one directive to the church, probably clearly in Matthew 28:19, which is basically tell people about me. Tell them about me when you're baptizing them, tell them about me when you're teaching, and engage the world in telling people about me. And we in the church, conversely, have been doing everything probably but that. And I look back to my seminary days, and I had no classes on discipleship. I had no classes on evangelism. The closest thing I had was one missions course that talked about what people were doing in other places. Growing up in the church as a kid, I can remember that New Guinea was the missionary focus of the ALC, and it seemed like the only people who didn't know about Jesus lived in New Guinea, and
Yeah.
we had maps of New Guinea and that was just the mindset. So the thought of actually telling people in my neighborhood about Jesus was a foreign concept. I mean, it was, you don't do that, primarily because you had this illusion that everybody was already associated with the church. So I think the church was complacent. I think as a result, we as a church treated the Bible almost like Aesop's fables, turning into a moralistic document. And so, the moralistic therapeutic deism that was exposed, I think it is true. I think it is absolutely true. And I think we're reaping the benefits of that, where people don't really think God's that important. And, it's about them feeling okay about themselves and being a good little boy or good little girl. And that's all it takes. And so you're just totally missing the gospel message, which just has power in it. So I've been concerned about the training of the next generation of pastors, that I don't want pastors that are out there doing damage, or pastors out there teaching moralistic therapeutic deism, or whatever social cause there is, or liturgical piety, or whatever. I just want pastors to tell people about Jesus and go back to Matthew 28:19 and do what we're supposed to do. I mean, it's pretty clear, pretty easy. And I think congregations need to wake up and say, we can't keep doing things the same way we've been doing them, because that's insanity. We're going into the ditch. Having said that, I also understand the whole demographics going on in the rural sector, where your population density is just being obliterated for a variety of different reasons. But you can still have a vibrant congregation with 25 people. I know that because I've done that. I've been in those situations. So
do you, I think we all get a sense that there's something wrong with the way that things are in the church today, that things aren't going the way we want them to. But do you get the sense in your experience that people are avoiding having the conversation about what those things are, and what does that type of avoidance really cost them?
And I think that avoidance comes in a variety of different forms. I raised this up to my church board, I don't know how many years ago, and said, there's a problem out there. I mean, I can remember when churches would say, we're having a hard time finding a pastor, and it's like, oh, okay. And then you're hearing congregations going 2 years without a pastor, and you're going, okay, that's pretty darn serious, and then a congregation our size taking a year and a half to try to find someone who's qualified and will fit our congregation. That was almost unheard of when I came out of seminary. I mean, you came out of seminary and it was, you got in the chutes and shot out to a congregation somewhere. Those days are gone. And Leon and I, we've had this conversation before, that now what we're finding is a lot of people that come to seminary, to ILT, they're second career people. And I used to be chairman of the board of trustees of LCMC, and I was like, oh my gosh, second career people, we're only going to get 5 years out of them or 10 years out of them, and so I was looking at it from that perspective. But from a church leader, God bless these people. I mean, I got a seminarian who's 82 years old, and I'm working with him just as hard as I am. I mean, he's way older than I am, but he's got a passion and heart for ministry in the Lord. And we got to train those people because they're the ones stepping forward. The other issue that causes me great concern is my generation of pastors. We're kind of the baby boomer generation, and when we start retiring, the problem we have now is going to become a tsunami. It's you're going to hear crickets in pastoral circles if we don't do something different.
Right.
So as Leon and I talked, congregations, they probably have to look from within themselves to identify their leaders and get those leaders trained. I just preached at a congregation whose pastor left last week, and they wanted me to supply preach, and I supply preached. And during the fellowship time, the chair of the call committee sat down and said, "Okay, I want to pick your ear." And I gave her this same spiel that I said, "You need to look within yourself and see if there's somebody." And she said, "We got this guy." And I said, "Start working on that guy, because that could be your next pastor." I think Leon, didn't Leon, you come up with the phrase, your next pastor might already be sitting in your pews or something like that? Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of congregations.
It's exactly
a lot of congregations looking around at a guy, and he's going to be like, "Why is everybody looking at me?"
Yeah,
but
exactly.
everyone else knows that
you're the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit about church revitalization. I think when a lot of people think of church revitalization, it's pretty narrow. They're thinking of churches that are about to close or are on life support. They're thinking about places that are really struggling. Give us a broader picture of what church revitalization looks like to you.
Matthew 28:19. Okay, you're done. No, I mean, it's not rocket science in a lot of ways. I mean, it's carrying out a Christian vocation, wherever you're placed, to be Jesus in that place, to carry on the characteristics of Jesus in that place, and to be the light of the gospel wherever you're at, and if that's a small town of 50 people and your church has 10 people in it, you take those 10 people and we discover what it means to be the light of Christ in that situation. I mean, the whole mindset that you got to have all these thousands of numbers to be successful as ministers of Christ is just ridiculous. I've told my own people, my youth and children people, I said, I've taught confirmation classes of 60. I've taught confirmation classes of 2. Guess which class I felt like I made a greater impact in?
Right.
It wasn't that class of 60. It was that class of 2. And so we got to get this mindset of numbers out of our head and just get back to what Jesus wants us to do. So I think you're right. A lot of times people, when they think of revitalization, they think it's some programs going to be pumped into them, or, some new discipleship philosophy or something like that. I think congregations just have to discover who they are in the setting that God has placed them, and figure out how to live out that gospel narrative within that context. I call it their sphere of influence.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Good stuff. Let's take a quick break as we hear a little bit more about ILT and momentum.
We all know it. The local church cannot afford to wait. Attendance is shrinking, pastors and leaders are stretched thin, and too many faithful churches are slipping from mission into maintenance. But decline is not the end of the story. Momentum is a network of pastors, churches, and everyday Christians facing the facts with faith and reaching their communities again. It's not another program, it's a movement to have a greater impact in the communities that you are trying to reach. So join a community of peers, gain coaching, tools, and training to move from maintaining to multiplying. If you're faithful, invested, and teachable, this is your moment. Connect to the Momentum Network at momentumnetwork.church. That's momentumnetwork.church.
Welcome back. We are here still with Kip Tyler, the chairman of the board of ILT, the Institute for Lutheran Theology. And we're talking about Momentum, a new network for church revitalization and to help churches become more missional focused and to regain their focus on the Great Commission. So Momentum was started. We had a small group of people that that met in this hotel conference room. I remember we were in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we came together. A couple of key people from ILT, some great friends and donors and support partners with ILT, and myself with Church Doctor Ministries. And one of the things that stood out to me during that conversation, Kip, when we were talking about developing this type of a network for church revitalization and getting refocused on mission, was this real desire that this didn't have to be just a Lutheran thing, right? That we wanted to create something that was going to help churches cross denominational lines and those types of things to really help create that sense of community or that network. Why do you think that type of effort is so important today for our local churches to be networked and while honoring their denominational connections is important for theology and those types of things, what is it about just networking and getting local churches working together that you think is really important?
I think there's synergy in number, and I think there's also synergy in working together, even if you've got some disagreements, maybe even big disagreements, still being able to work together. Just in that of itself sets an example to the world that this can be done, that you can disagree with people and still work for a common goal for the good of the church, the good of the nation, the good of the world, and so I don't think that we need to set aside our denominational differences. I think we just need to rise above them and do what Christ asks us to do, and yet carry out our unique flavor while we do those things. And I think that's really important. Leon asked earlier about things that we do that get in the way of accomplishing the Great Commission. And I think one of them is that we create our own little silos, and we're more concerned about protecting those silos than we are engaging and working with each other to make this happen. I mentioned that I talked with my church board several years ago, and I had just this craving that we needed a summit or something where we would bring church bodies together, different denominations, congregations, networks, and my church board, we'll host this, and it'll be a worldwide revolutionary thing. Was I started unpacking this thing, my mind started playing out what this is going to look like, and I just saw disaster happening because everyone would say, I want to be there, but then they want to take over or do their piece, or they want to push other people out of the way. And so I thought, well, one group that I kind of feel a synergy with already is ILT. So Leon and we had conversations about some kind of summit type thing, and kind of came to the same conclusion. Who in the world can we work with that, has kind of the same passion about this that we do? I know our denominational leaders do, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not understanding, or maybe I'm not a part of what's going on. I don't know, but I got friends in other denominations. I have one friend who's a bishop in one of the dioceses here in Omaha, or in Nebraska, excuse me, and same issues. I mean, they're going through the same stuff. So we really have to rise above that to engage in this. So I really like this connection between ILT and Church Doctor Ministries. I've had long experience with Church Doctor all the way back to Kent Hunter, and of course I've been with ILT almost since it took its first breaths, and know it inside and out. And as far as institutions, I'm an all or nothing guy because my college closed and my seminary has walked away from me. So ILT is all I got's left. And so I'm a honorary alumni of ILT, even though I've never taken a class. I've taught some, but never taken a class. And so I'm all in, that we have to help congregations, and we have to raise up the next generation of pastors, even if they're 82 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, that's good. Yeah, absolutely.
What were you going to say, Leon?
Well, I was just going to say momentum is for more than just pastors, though, too. There's we expect that other people besides paid staff into church or pastors are going to be involved in Momentum. Why is it important for it to be more than just clergy? Why is it important to include members kind of throughout the church?
Well, there's this thing called the priesthood of all believers. And I think it is absolutely essential for the church to understand that the church is not a building, that the church is wherever the people of God are. And so the church is literally out there. And I've said to my own people, I've said, how many people do you think I run into during the course of a week? Who knows? 100 people. Let's just say 100 people.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
let's say all my members that worship on a Sunday morning also run into about 100 people. What's the greater impact? Kip Tyler running into his 100 or my congregation running into the 8,000 or the 10,000 people? Well, the answer is pretty obvious, but it's what we do with those relationships and those opportunities. And so that's where I talked about this up in Canada to the Calc people, that reclaiming the understanding of vocation, which is for everybody. Christian vocation isn't just pastors. Christian vocation is everyone living out their Christian identity and wherever the Lord has placed them. And that is how to make a greater impact. And I think lay people, I'm saying this as a pastor, lay people might have more credibility than a pastor. I've often said a pastor is like the used car salesman. You're saying all this stuff because you're getting paid to say all this stuff, but a layperson is a satisfied customer, so they're able to speak the gospel from a different lens. They just either don't know how to, or feel they haven't been given permission to, or again, we've our own worst enemy. Only the pastor can say that. Well, no, that's so not true. So yeah, I mean, just impact wise, and to be faithful. I think those are really essential for lay people. So yeah, training a lay people is absolutely what we need to be about.
Yeah. And, I think that's, really great. We're going to be offering a lot of those tools and resources to train lay people. And so I think you've really kind of hit the nail on the head there to make sure that this is training that's available to the people who are in the seats, in the pews, are sitting around those leadership tables during those meetings. And so that's, really, really important that we're investing in those individuals as well as clergy. And so I think Leon's got the most important question, though, too, in all of this as we talk about momentum and what's provided.
Oh yeah, what is the cost of Momentum? How much does a Momentum cost for people to be a part of it?
Free.
And why is that
I still
important?
remember Tracee's face when I said that in Minneapolis. I said, whatever we do, I want this to be free. And I think all of her teeth fell out at that moment. And she put them all back in. But I'm, you got struggling congregations who are having a hard time making ends meet. The last thing we need to do is say, okay, for $10,000, we'll answer all your questions. And then we give them all this stuff, and then they discover, oh, we have to do all this stuff. It's like any consultation type thing. The consultant can inform, but ultimately the people on the ground have to do the work, So I really felt like I wanted people to understand this from the beginning. This is on you. This is what you got to do. We will help you sort through all this. So when I said that, and at the same time knew, okay, we got to find donors to make all this happen. And so it's painting the picture of why this is so critical, and that donors can really make a big impact in the life of many congregations if we do this. The problem is when you make something free, then people think, oh, there's nothing to it. Or it's bad or whatever, and it's not. We're trying to supply a premium product without any cost. Now, there may be residual costs on down the line as they seek more training or things like that, but hopefully getting them moving in the right direction with little financial cost, but a lot of sweat equity. I think would be a good thing.
Do you think churches are going to have to be more involved as church leaders, church members, the lay people who are working within the congregations on a regular basis going to have to be more involved, not only because the pastor shortage is going to require it, but because it's going to take buy-in from everyone to make the changes that are necessary to get through this transition?
All of the above. Yep, I agree. And that's, I hate having congregations go through long pastoral shortages, but that's where you really raise up a lot of lay leadership in the midst of that. This church that I was at this last week, I preached and presided over communion. That was it. They already had things in place, and I thought, you go, guys. This is great. This is exactly what should be happening, is the laity step in and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the things about the network is that it comes with that support too, because it's not just an individual in the congregation. It's not an individual pastor or even just a small church, but by creating this network, they'll be able to have extra support, peer support. There'll be the sharing of ideas. There'll be the opportunity for people to connect. Even not just online, but even through some of the in-person events and maybe someday Kip will get to that summit kind of idea as we start to pull in, all the different parts and pieces of this.
I have a location in mind, but I'm not going to divulge it yet.
Okay, very good. Is it Canada? Because, I love Canada.
Leon knows where my evil mind is already going. Yeah.
My mug. I always have my mug with me for our Canadian friends.
I was going to say, a building is being renovated as we speak. How's that?
Okay. All right. More to come on that, which I honestly think we will have more to come and share about that in the future. Absolutely. So, Kip, as we start to wrap things up here, what would you say to a leader who's maybe on the fence, maybe a pastor, someone who's hearing about momentum for the first time, not quite sure about it, not quite sure if they really want to be a part of something like this? What would you say to that leader, pastor, or, just the individual in a church when they start to hear about momentum? What words of wisdom would you give them?
Well, first thing I'd say, it doesn't cost a thing. So what are you going to lose? Come check it out. You're not out anything by doing that. And in the process, you may discover, wow, this is something that really kind of resonates with me or is challenging me or is already reaffirming some thoughts that I already have. I think working together is critical. Paul demonstrated that in the early church. All these letters that we have that we still study today, those were, if he had the internet, we might not have those letters because that's basically what he was doing, was giving words of encouragement or correction or, helping them become the best possible congregation that they could become in their local setting. And so I would encourage people to check this out. Again, cross-denominational lines. This is not top-down type stuff. This is crawling beside each other and sitting in the foxhole together, trying to figure out the best course of action to move forward as God calls us.
Leon, you want to anything else to add, or you want to wrap us up here with Kip today?
Thank you. Thank you, Kip, for being here with us. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. We pray that you and your congregation would be blessed by God in the work that you're doing, and thanks for being a resource for us as well.
Thanks. You guys are two of my favorite people, so this was fun getting together with you.
Yeah, thank you for that too.
we like to hear that. That one's good. We're going to make sure that stays in for this.
That's not a blooper, huh?
That's not a blooper. That does not go on our blooper reel. So great. All right. Thanks a lot, Kip. Blessings to you and your ministry.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks for joining us for Momentum Unfiltered. If this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or gave you something to think about, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a comment or a review, and share this episode with another person in your church. To learn more about the Momentum Network and discover the additional free resources that we offer, please visit momentumnetwork.church. Until next time, keep making disciples, developing leaders, and creating healthy communities. And remember, in the work of the Great Commission, everybody ropes and everybody rides.